Thank you very much, Adam, and thanks for inviting to being part of this event. Welcome also to the audience to kicking off with the first panel of the day, where we try to bridge the knowledge gap between model and twin. So with me together, we have, as you already know, Robert from Petrobras, Joseph from AVEVA, Luke from Kongsberg, Manas from SAP, and Jhhen from Tata Technologies. So we will now go into a quick round of introduction for everyone. So highly appreciate if Luke can start. Just introduce shortly yourself and maybe what journey you took so far with the digital twin.
Yeah, so thank you very much, and good morning to everyone watching, and good morning to my fellow panelists. Luke Kendall, so I'm currently the VP Solutions for Kongsberg Digital. Background, I have about 17, 18 years in the oil and gas industry, coming from an EPC background and moving into an operator shoes with Shell for the last 12 years. Seeing the full asset life cycle from development through to operations, and then in my last position, looking after digitalisation for the Greater Shell. Experience, digital twin's been a roller coaster journey for myself. Going back maybe almost 8 or 9 years. So, and recently evolving into the PAN program rollout within Shell. And seeing it from a very early infancy to where it is today. So I'm really excited to contribute towards the panel and looking forward to a great session.
Thank you, Luke. Manas, can you continue?
Hi everybody. Good morning. I'm Manas. I'm the Chief Digital Innovation Coach at SAP for the oil and gas and petrochemicals industry. And I have been in the industry, oil and gas, for 20 years now. Most of it has been with SAP in various domains, in various functional areas. And my experience with digital twin has been very, very interesting. In my advisory role to my clients in energy industry, for the last, let's say, 6 years, there has been a lot of discussions with my executives from oil and gas companies, especially, and also petrochemicals, around how a digital twin technology could be leveraged. And then, there has been several ways and several use cases that have emerged in the past. And we have worked together in kind of building and maturing this technology, working together with the operators, working together with other ecosystem partners. And over the last 5-6 years, I would say that, we are now reaching a stage when, these sort of small pilots and small proof of concepts that we have done in the past can now be made enterprise scale and can be really leveraged and taken advantage of at a full enterprise level. And I'll share some of those details as we go ahead in the panel today. Thank you for the opportunity. Over to you, my next fellow panelists.
Thanks, Manas. Then Jhhen, next in line.
Yeah, thanks guys. Hi, this is Jhhen Chaudhary, and working in the field of digital manufacturing since last 14 years, using various technologies like computer integrated manufacturing and now digital twin and IIoTs. And yeah, I have worked with various kind of industry such as automobile, aerospace, warehouse and or logistic automation industry, and I am having first-hand experience in implementing this kind of technology in this kind of industry. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Joseph.
Yeah, good morning everyone from Boston, Mass in the United States. My name is Joe McMullen. I'm currently in charge of value chain optimization marketing here at AVEVA, where we implement digital twins to help you optimize the entire value chain of your oil and gas operations. I've been with AVEVA for over 20 years now, and I started as technical support where I helped customers use our software to model their processes. So in essence, I've been working with digital twins or process models for over 20 years here. So it's something that I'm passionate about. I think it's really important to the industry to make sure they have accurate models, accurate digital twins, so that they can make the best decisions possible.
Great. And our previous presenter, Robert, just for those who tuned in right now.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the invitation again. I have 10-year experience in Petrobras, working with Subsea systems. Started with the operations, hit the hammer, then become going to the project design. And in the last 2 years, I work with digital solutions, especially in change management. The new processes and convincing people that we have the change and it is better. So.
Thank you very much, guys. So let's start thinking about a little bit on the theme. So the knowledge gap. I think the audience is very interested. What is the difference between the actual model behind the twin and the twin itself? So maybe Joseph, you can elaborate a little bit about it.
Sure. So in my opinion, a digital twin has 3 parts. The first part is the content. That's the information, the data that you get from engineering, from operations, from maintenance, or from your enterprise. That data is one of the important foundations of a digital twin. The second area is visualization. You need to be able to see and understand that data, whether that's in a remote operating center, a dashboard, or some sort of mobile device. But in my opinion, the third part is the models themselves, right? I think they're the most important because they take that data and process it from raw data and make it into information so that you can visualize it. So the models can be first principle models or parametric models or supply chain models or whatever. And I think there are 3 types of models that you have. So there's physics-driven models, first principles. We call them at AVEVA white box models. They're the most accurate, but they're not necessarily applicable to every process. Then you have black box models, and they're data-driven AI models. And they fill in the blanks where physics models aren't really necessarily optimal. And then the third portion is gray box models. And they're where you have artificial intelligence infused within physics-based models. And they're accurate and they're really fit for purpose. And in my opinion, they're the way we should go. So in my opinion, the difference between the model and a digital twin is the model is the backbone that takes data and transforms it into information that you can visualize. And that visualization helps you make better decisions.
Thank you, Joseph, on that. I like the idea of the backbone, actually. So if we will go a little bit more into the backbone, Luke, maybe you can also have some thoughts on that. How important it is to have a good model in place for digital twins?
Yeah, sure. I suppose when it comes to where you are and who you are is using a twin, depending on the importance of your models. But I mean, certainly in the kind of the 3 dimensions that Joseph was alluding to in terms of your physics and engineering principles and machine learning, AI models, etc. Having a really good foundation is super, super important, especially if you're using things like real-time production optimization. Making sure that your data is driven from the right sources of information, that are trusted, and that's really one of the backbone principles. So how do we break down barriers and drive models directly from our process control domain, from our DCS systems that are actually running and operating our plant? So this is kind of bridging onto models that are going to help us move from our current modus of operations to a more autonomous in the future. So models are super, super important in that, because that's the part where we spend a lot of brain power, and we consume a lot of our engineers on sites or locations, or of our service providers spending time doing a lot of computational work on models. So having the right basis there, driving the right models to drive insights quickly so we can turn around to value is super, super important. But it doesn't go alone. Models can't be insulated from the other dimensions, because it's when you put the other two dimensions with that model as dimensions when you really get a true digital twin. So, but this, is very interesting, very interesting subject to break off on. So I welcome their content from my other presenters as well to hear their perspectives on the backbone. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Luke. Jhhen, Manas, do you want to add something there?
Yes, no, absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay, then Manas, you go first.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Jhhen, thanks for the opportunity, and Benjamin, thanks for the opportunity. Yes, I mean, I completely agree with the point of view of Joseph and Luke. Joseph mentioned about the sources and the model, and then the visualization, right? And Luke stated the importance of all these three coming together, right? I will just share a few things from our experience at SAP working with many of our clients. As Luke said, a digital twin means different things to different people and different use cases and on different scenarios, right? We basically see 4 key areas where the adoption of digital twin and usage of digital twin is prominent, and all these 4 areas really are at a different maturity level in this kind of usage of the model, either from a physics perspective or from artificial intelligence, machine learning perspective. So let me allude a little bit into that through some examples. Okay. First area where digital twin is popularly used in our experience is to make intelligent products and offer value-added services from what they have today, right? In this, I've talked about an example. We have been working with a German progressing cavity pump manufacturer. The use case is about leveraging multi-physics-based simulation digital twin model in order to offer new engineering and operational insights as a service to their oil and gas and chemicals customers, right? What they do is real-time sensor data actually from the pump is used to build several virtual sensors using the model that Joseph was talking about, right? And that's then used for monitoring and simulations using digital twin model. This enables accurate and reliable pump operations and well-conditioned monitoring based on virtual sensors. Now, if you look in detail here, the thing is that using this technology, how this company is able to offer a new set of services to their customers is what is very, very prominent here, right? The next example that comes to my mind is from a big energy company based out of France. And in order to realize their strategy to provide clean energy, they have established a renewable energy producing solar photovoltaic plant, many of them in South America. And they're embarking on implementing, again here, physics-based digital twin model to monitor the health and predict output from these photovoltaic plants under various meteorological data simulations. And here you see that they are trying to mix the physics-based model with a data or a machine learning kind of an AI model, so that they can predict what would be the energy production from these kind of PV plants that they have. Yeah. The next area is about using digital twin for factory and manufacturing processes more intelligent. And here, in this case, the example of Sasraf, a refinery in KSA, in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, becomes very prominent. They have created a digital twin model that helps them to track both volume as well as value as they flow through the whole processing of hydrocarbon from crude through intermediaries in various refinery units to finished refined products, right? And to achieve this, what they do is they connect the enterprise data with a lot of systems that they have on their shop floor, in the refineries, in various units of the refineries, and then bringing the right context of this data that is available on the operations floor, available on the shop floor, with enterprise context, organizational context. They are able to build this kind of a model for both how the volumes flow and how the value in terms of cost and margins that they make in this, right? The third area where we see digital twin being used is for improving asset performance. And here, this is the most used use case. And I haven't heard of any client that I have met where they're not thinking about using digital twin in the form of predicting, in the form of how to predict the performance of their assets. And what they use here is historical data and data from operational systems, which they have it in plenty. And I can name many customers who are trying to do this. And fourth, but not last but not the least area, is to empower people. And here the use case is around connected worker safety scenario, right? What they do is they use wearables with sensors in them, and data coming from these wearables integrated into a model helps them to achieve something like, protecting employees entering into unsafe zone through digital geofenced environments, right? So you see, all these kind of use cases are only possible when you bring the right model with the right sources of data and provide an accurate visualization of it while bridging this gap of silos within organizations to really make it all work. That's my perspective. Thanks. Jhhen, over to you. You wanted to add?
Yeah, so
Yes.
thanks for variety. And I think Jhhen wants to add right now, so please go ahead.
Digital twin is like, say, a diamond which looks different from different angle, as rightly said by everyone else. Now, question is, what are the differences between model and digital twin, and how we can bridge that gap? Okay. First, for that, we need to understand what is model and what is digital twin. And model, again, it could be say on virtual model of a product, or say or of a system which is physically not implemented in. Okay. Or we can say, or say hypothetical model also, like space and time. That is one hypothetical model, but it is not, we don't have that physical entity of that. And digital twin, like, for having digital twin, we should have a physical entity and its virtual mirror, is as simple as that. Okay. And if we are having physical entities and its virtual mirror, that means we are going to communicate between these two entities, that virtual and physical, whether it is product or a system. And to have that bi-directional communication at the required rate, that is what we call it twinning, or say we can call it digital twin. And okay, now next level, we can define it, that level of maturity, what Manas was referring to. That okay, that twinning rate can be improved, and what kind of parameters we are communicating, what are the states of that parameter, how frequently we are changing, how accurately we are changing, that will define its level of maturity. But to distinguish between model and digital twin, I think basic two parameter is to have physical to virtual communication and virtual to physical communication. Why I am differentiating here that to bi-directional communication, like physical to virtual and virtual to physical, like again, due to the, say, for example, level is much higher. First one is bridging gap between model and digital twin, and second one is bridging gap between digital twin model 1 to digital twin model 2. Yeah, that way I think we can distinguish and we can bridge that gap. Hope I am clear.
Thank you. So now looking to Robert, since he had a presentation up front and we were able to have at least the end. I thought your conclusion was very interesting, and especially when it comes, you're having a model in place, you have to maintain it, right? And then you have to make it more valuable during the life cycle. So picking up your computer vision makes digital twins better and vice versa. How you think about improving your models in place within your life cycle processes?
I'll catch Joseph's speech of the three models. He said there is the white box, the black box, right, and the third one. Right. But let's take this first two. When we do a physics model, our physics model is not maybe the most transparent for the user, the most reachable for the engineers, But the first thing we know about a physics model is that it's not complete. We don't know complete physics model. We don't know everything. So when they are data-driven, as I said in my previous speech, we always discover new mode of failure. We always discover new stuff that we were blind to before when doing physics models. So there comes the black box analogy, right? And use all the data we have to fit better model. Maybe use this additional data, what is not going correctly with our physics model, to, hey, there's something here that we didn't know yet. Here there's a limit. We can do this with all data we have. Even being a sensor data, being, as Manal said, wearable data and fencing, and maybe by our computer vision. Computer vision has already made some new insights for subsea systems. So we first we have primarily focus on the physics, but we know it's not complete. So we have to bring all the guns we have so we can attack this problem and make a good, reliable, and generating revenue and value for us.
So thanks, Robert, from your point of view. Maybe Joseph, you can add your thoughts from the supplier perspective.
Yeah, I think all of the panelists brought up such great ideas on the use cases and the value of digital twins. In my opinion, regardless of whether you use white box or black box or gray box, it's all about the value that the digital twin and the models provide. It's all about bringing people together, reducing the silos, increasing collaboration, just bridging that information gap by giving people access to the same information. And the fact that it is information, just not raw data, is so valuable. So in my opinion, the real value of the digital twin is really just increasing that collaboration and getting everyone on the same page, so that everyone can go forward with the same objective for your company, and really just make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Good point.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can only second Joseph on this. I mean, I see it from my experience working with clients, right? I mean, this is one of the biggest challenge for implementing digital twin and really getting the value of a digital twin is to bridge these organizational silos. And sometimes you can create an excellent model, but that model, unless it has the right data sources, the right quality of data is provided to that, it will not work. And we have seen, initiatives failing because of this. People want to keep their data close to them and not share it with another department or another unit in their same organization even, right? So this is a big challenge. So therefore, what happens is that many organizations are today sitting on a huge pile of operational data, and they are not able to liberate this data to get better insights or to feed into a digital twin which can help take much better decisions. So these silos have to be broken, the data quality needs to be addressed, and also at the same time the security aspect of really connecting, integrating all these type of heterogeneous systems needs to be ensured. And that's the role of technology providers like us at SAP and AVEVA. Joseph is representing here, and many others, ecosystem partners that we have. And it's not a play of one company, it is an ecosystem play. So we have to partner with several entities. For example, we at SAP are partnering with AVEVA, who is leader in providing these sort of physics-based simulations, right? And we have our strength in enabling business processes across for many years, right? So we are partnering like that to bring the value to end clients that we engage with.
Right. So can I add one more thing, Benjamin?
Sure.
Yesterday on one of the panels, someone brought up how you don't want to start with your technology and just finding the technology. You want to find a problem internally and then find the technology that helps solve that problem. So whether it's a digital twin, a black box model, a gray box, or white box, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a process digital twin or a business process digital twin. It's still a technology, but you have to look within to find what problem you want to solve internally. Otherwise, you won't have goals. You won't have cultural buy-in. You won't have the ability to be successful. So you have to be able to measure that. A digital twin is still a technology. Find a problem that internally that you want to solve, and then find the appropriate digital twin and model to solve that problem.
Great.
That's a good point.
Great point. And I think maybe handing over to Luke with your past in operations, actually, maybe you can sketch one or two success stories while having such technology in place and optimizing things.
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose it bridges the world from where I was to where I am today. But I suppose, going back to a different context of thinking about models in maybe, taking the physics and everything else out of it and the technical out of it. When you're in operations or a production support position, it really comes down to the three dimensions of where models play in the digital twin today. How can a model help me know where I am today and where my gap to potential is, and produce that gap to potential without manumatic hordes of effort? Tomorrow, what's going to go on to what's going to happen tomorrow? Where can my models tell me actually where I'm more efficient to produce? Operators are changing all the time. You probably saw it on the news yesterday about the way that operators are going to have to decarbonize. So, not only do we have to, think about how we help the industry go to electrification, there is a burden. We also have to think about how to help in the decarbonization as well. So how can models help us know as we move from a production, as the world moves from a production volume to a margin world, models are going to become that much more important. When is going to be the most optimal time to supply? Electricity prices at spot market are changing all the time. So when is it going to be efficient and effective to change? And that draws back to one of the big success stories in my previous role, where we partnered with Kongsberg and Shell to kind of solve this. When is the right time to produce? Looking at your energy costs, looking at make sure that you line up your processes in the most effective and efficient manner. Not only just to have to be able to capitalize on using less power, but using your power in the most effective and an efficient way possible. And this goes into the kind of the always on, what we call the always on models. Where am I today? What do I need to do? Where can I cream my curve to get the maximum production whilst using the least amount of electricity? Also being a sustainable producer. as a lot of the energy companies start to electrify, there's a huge demand on the net as the world moves towards electrification. It's not just big industry; it's also small industry. It's private as we all move to electrical vehicles. We know we're going to have to know and tell our suppliers when we're going to put a demand on the net, because our industry nets are not up to it. So that's something that Kongsberg is passionate about. So we're growing out these capabilities, not only just in the industrial domain, but also helping industry decarbonize by sharing that information, sharing these models with industry, so we can actually start modeling the grids and know when is the optimum time to produce, not only just for sustainability for the company, but also for the grid companies who need to balance the supply and demand. So we see that as a really a key market area, and it's something that we have a lot of experience on, and something we're going to go after, and also something that's highly advantageous both for our existing customers and for the future of the energy industry.
Great, thanks. And I think something we had in our prep call that fits perfectly to this is Jhen's crystal ball. So looking beyond the as is and also preparing and adjusting for the future. Maybe Jhhen, you can elaborate a little bit around your crystal ball, if you're still on. Jhhen? You lost him. Okay. So there actually popped up one question. So Sushi is a little bit curious about what is or how is the value of bridging silos quantified, actually? So maybe also having it more from the supplier, but also from the operator perspective. Maybe Robert, you can start.
When I started developing digital twins and everything else, silo, our data was not the problem. Our models we had the brains on it, right? But that was not the problem. We discovered that the problem to run our digital twin is get the from the Subsea perspective was getting the production data. And okay, so let's break the bridge. Let's make meetings. Let's make that online coffee meetings. And we found out, hey, production, can you give us data? And their answer was, hey, I need your data too. We discovered when the first times when we were developing the twins that none of our applications were made for sharing. Yeah, it wasn't by design that it was for sharing. And even have ERP on our Petrobras SAP solution. We even have other project platforms. We had trouble on sharing this data. People would gather it, hug it with strength that it wasn't possible to get this data. So when we started to have informal space to chat, initiatives that push the people from different areas to work together, we started to have this start of here, okay, little share, and it becomes massive, and now everyone is, okay, let's give this software an API so we can share with everyone. Hey, take here. Just give your conditions so I know who is using our data to keep it safe.
Thanks. Since Manas brought it up, sorry.
So what I just said that those tools like the ERP, the platform, become the way, but that doesn't change culture. So we have to work on culture and people sharing, make people see that there is value of sharing. Then, okay, here's the tool. We have to give it here.
Okay, thanks. Jhhen, are you back? So maybe some eye movement now. And maybe Manas, because you brought this topic up, breaking down silos and the value of it. Maybe also give a little touch on standardizing certain interfaces and so on. How will this add value as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the biggest challenges that, for example, I mentioned about this case of SASREF, right? So what they faced initially is that when they looked at the sources of data for building this kind of a digital twin environment, right, to look at how the volume and value flow across their value chain, right, they saw that in operations they had several systems which are potentially sources of data for getting this kind of value, right? And when they had to go and look at how to really bring the context to these data, they had to first of all aggregate this data, look at each department who is using what and how much they could share. They realized that many of these departments are operating very much in silos without even sharing data with each other, even in operations, right? Forget about the operations to the enterprise, to the IT side. So what they did, first thing, is to build these sort of standard interfaces, and these interfaces based on really open technologies, so that tomorrow it doesn't become old and stale, so that and then you spend a lot of energy then in maintaining these interfaces later. So what they did, they tried to standardize their operational processes as much as possible, standardize on the interfaces, and then this built the framework to make sharing of data possible and feasible, right? That's key. So first, build the technology foundation, build the right integration architecture, so that you can make this sort of sharing data feasible. So once you make that feasible, and then you do something like you take a use case which is of value to almost every part of the departments who would be involved in this kind of a use case. Yeah, take that use case and try to do a small pilot, a proof of concept, so that then each and every organization who are sharing data see the value of it. For example, right, from an IT side, if you give this kind of how much margin do you make for your various refined products as it flows from crude to intermediate through to final products, right? A CFO is very excited to get some data like this, right? The same use case, when extended to somebody who is doing operation planning, if he is able to see what volume are expected to be produced for that day, how much inventories do I have, and what are the other parameters that I need to take care of, and if this view is given to them, they are happy with it, right? They were not getting this information before. So through a particular choosing a particular use case which brings value to various entities within the organization and demonstrating it through a proof of concept is key in really bridging this silos within an organization. And this is what we learned from our experience, for example, at SASREF.
Yeah.
Start small, scale fast.
Yeah. But it also really does draw on the fact that the value from breaking down silos, liberating data, making sure that the companies where you're running your business processes from have open architectures to share data. But the digital twin really resides in the middle of all this. It not only does it integrate, but it gives transparency. And the way we productize certainly our digital twin is that we connect all data sources together wherever possible, wherever our partners are open enough to share these data. We believe on open API structures and connecting data to and from that we can then compare and show the user very, very quickly, hey, actually, you've got discrepancies in your data. This is where the value is created very quickly, because what is a digital twin without trust? If you're, I certainly know from my time, even working in an EPC as an operator, if you're spending 20, 30% of your day validating the data as the most valid, because I've got 50, 60, 70 other data sources that might contain updated versions of the data that's relevant for the work you're doing. The quicker you can access that, and that the twin is showing you where your discrepancies are, or hey, actually there are no discrepancies, this is trustworthy, move on, create the models, deploy it, get the value out of it. That's where the value is going to come. The speed of actually trust, and then productizing your products to get the value out of it. And then that obviously is going to help you grow confidence, because it's not only about the scalability of then that solution, it's the scalability of trust in your organization to adopt and adapt your digital twin to break down more silos across your organization. So that's where we really see the value coming in.
Yeah,
great. Having another question or more or less question in the chat. So it's more a conclusion that yesterday, and obviously we also agree on data is the key for such technologies. And there's a question, compared to other applications, how can a digital twin especially help and get and prepare kind of data like trusted data, integrated data, and so on? So maybe Joseph.
So when we build our process models, and I'm talking about a process digital twin, so we're modeling kind of your preheat train or your reactor, your distillation columns, or your entire refinery in several different models that are all interconnected. The first thing we do is we bring all that data in, and we check it for data reconciliation. We have to reconcile it, right? Because we all know that even if you're continuously calibrating your sensors, they're always off a little bit, right? So the first thing we do is we look for gross error detections, and that's readings that are way off, right, and way out of calibration and just erroneous completely. And then we use the model to make sure, in all our predictive methods, first principle thermodynamics, to make sure that we can figure out which sensors have the most accuracy going on. We use that data to process the model. So the first step that we ever do when we look at our model and we bring in real life plant data is we look for gross errors, and then we look for to reconcile all the other data that we have. So we're using accurate depictions of what's actually going on in the process, because we know that just because the sensor says it's 5 gallons per minute doesn't necessarily mean, and I know that's very US centric, right? But it doesn't mean that it's really 5. It could be 4.95 or it could be 5.1, right? So all those sensors are off a little bit. So we make sure that we reconcile all that data to make sure that we're using accurate data as we turn that data into information.
On point. Thanks, Joseph, and thank you guys for being with me on this panel. And we are over for now, and handing over to Adam again.